Welcome. Now we want to do the installation and setup of Tailwind CSS in the right way, more like the production way. So for that, we will go to Tailwind CLI. We have to run this particular command, npx tailwind css init. Copy that, go to your editor, click on terminal, new terminal, and it opens a window here. Click on or paste the command. You can just, and now it's asking whether to install this package. Just press yes. It's installing the package in this folder. So now it's there. It also created a config file for us. So what we will do is we will give a structure to our code. So I will delete this index file for, and I'm going to create two folders here. One is the src where we will keep the source. Another folder will be, let's say, the output. All right. In the output, I will now create our index.html file, or we can continue to create multiple HTML files here and press shift exclamation and hit enter. It will generate a boilerplate code, and I will say hello tailwind. I'll copy the same and put it here in, let's say, h2. So far so good. We can go and check this here. So now it says in the tailwind config.js file, we need to say where our CSS, or let's say the HTML files and JavaScript file lives. So let's go ahead and do that. So if I go here, this is my tailwind, and I have to just say like dot slash and then blah 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 and then our file. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go here and first create our, or let's go ahead and do that first here. So here basically what I want is I want to create a file here called input CSS. Why? If I go to the next step, you will see it has created a file called input CSS. So let's first create this file inside and paste this piece of code there. So I will go and first create a file here, input CSS. Once we are done with this, then all this will make sense. So for now, just create this file. And these are some of the base Tailwind libraries that we need to add. Paste them here. As soon as you do, you will see some linting rules popping up and telling you that this is not good. It's basically warnings, so we can stop that from here. Click on settings and search here unknown. And you see CSS lint, unknown rules are set at warning, so just click on ignore. Save it, and that should be gone. So now we have created this particular file here, and here we have our HTML class. So let's say I want to go ahead and say class bg, and let's say I want to say As soon as you type BG, you see it starts to pop up with all the IntelliSense or the different classes it gives you. Suggestion. Why is that happening? Because we have installed this extension, Tailwind CSS, and that's the reason it gives us all the suggestions when we type a class name. So let's say Tailwind BG hyphen, and then we can say maybe red, like the one we chose. Save it. And what I would like to do is close this, and I will right click on this and try to open in live server. Let's see what happens. We see that it's not reflecting. It's not red in the background. There is a reason for that. Why? There is no CSS imported here. So how can it work? Although we have this Tailwind component classes here, but then we also need to import it some kind of class or the style sheet file here. We cannot import this one because this is just a Tailwind configuration. So we need to have some kind of automated way that it generates the CSS and puts it in this folder, which we can refer in the index.html. So let's go ahead and do that. So now what we have to do is go to Tailwind config and tell where exactly we are writing our content. So we are writing it here in the output folder. So I'm going to say dot slash output, and then I can say slash index.html. Save this one, and now we need to run a command that will generate the CSS for us. So if you scroll down, this is the command that we have to run. So copy this, let's paste it here and frame it as per our needs. So npx tailwind css dot src is input css and output. So this is input. Where is the input? It's here in our location. Output is at, instead of, we need to mention it as output because our folder name is output, not dist, and it's going to create an output css, and minus minus watch will continue to watch this folder for any changes and it will regenerate that file. So let's go ahead and copy this or cut and paste it here and hit enter. So it is now building the project, and you see it created an output.css file. Now we can see the output CSS file. It has the CSS classes, everything that is needed basically to start using Tailwind in our application. And it also has the class that we just added rendered here. So if I go ahead and now save this configuration and import this output CSS, so I can say link CSS and I can say output.css file. Save it. See, it's watching it reloading automatically. If I now go to the browser, you see it is very nicely green or the red color that we had. Let's say we want to make this also something. So what happens now? So if you see in the output here, it has added this particular property. As soon as we start using something else also, let's say I say class text, and then let's say we say large 2 times, 4 times large. As soon as I save this, you will see it will rebuild and create the CSS, and we will have a class or CSS class rendered here. So let's save it. Let's see. You see, this is the styling for text for Excel that we just used. And now if I go to the browser, you see it is looking big now. So this is how Tailwind CSS works. So one small thing we should do, what happens if there are any other HTML file other than the name index HTML, then it will not be picked up. Hence, if we make it as star.html, which means this applies for any kind of other HTML also. Let's say if I create a home.html and say shift, exclamation mark, and I can say div, I can say, let's say not there, here. If I say div, we say this is another HTML, and let's say I want to use the class here, let's say font bold. Let's go and see the output CSS. It has created font bold, and now we need to import it here. Link CSS, the output.css file, output CSS file. If I go to the browser and change this to home, you see it is bold. So in this way, any other HTML file we create here and start using the Tailwind classes, those will be compiled into CSS classes like this, and we have to import them as link, and then we can see the effect of those styling on our web page. So this was all about setting up Tailwind CSS in the right way in your local environment. One thing I would like to note is you can use Tailwind with any other library or framework like React, Angular, Vue, and there will be similar configuration that you have to do with each of them. Luckily, you don't have to do any specific configuration. As soon as you create those projects for that specific library or framework with Tailwind, it automatically comes with a pre-configured Tailwind CSS. You may have to sometimes tweak this Tailwind config file for certain things, but then those are more or less very easy. And you get the documentation also how to configure your Tailwind CSS with frameworks like, as I mentioned, Angular, React, those kind of things. So you can get all those documentations here. So let's say if I say React, install Tailwind with React. So you just follow the commands provided and you will have React.js application running with Tailwind CSS. Same you can go ahead and do with any other library or framework. So this was it for this video. Thank you.